Joining us now, courtesy of Vivid Seats, defenseman number 21 from your LA Kings, Jordan Spence. How are you doing today, Jordan?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And featuring Zach Dooley. How are you doing today, Dools?
Jesse, I love that intro. Vivid Seats. Welcome to the podcast.
Jordan, first question for you. On any team you've ever been on, at any level of hockey, have you done gift exchanges around the holidays?
Would Secret Santa count?
Sure.
Yeah, then yes, I have.
Have you ever re-gifted something that you got in one of those exchanges to another teammate?
No, I haven't actually. Right. That's kind of funny if I did that.
So we want to ask you a little bit about where you're from, but I'm not going to ask you about Australia because it's beaten into the ground at this point. But you moved to Cornwall, Prince Edward Island. I don't know if you have a lot of pride in being from the Maritimes or carry that with you, but recently the QMJHL changed what the M stands for. It's no longer the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. It's now the Quebec Maritimes Junior Hockey League. I was wondering if you had any thoughts about the Maritimes coming up in the world.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. I had no clue until now that they changed it, but, obviously it's pretty cool that, there's a lot of teams in the Maritimes anyways, so I think it was bound to happen, and it's pretty cool that they changed the name to that.
The only, big name Maritime people I know are Doug McLean, because I used to listen to him on the radio out of Toronto there, and Classified, hip-hop artist out of the Maritimes. Judging by the look on your face, you have no idea.
I have no
That's
idea.
Fine.
You guys ever seen Superbad?
Yeah, I have.
Becca from Superbad, the girl Michael Cera is interested in, is from Prince Edward Island, according to Wikipedia.
Oh, wow.
And that was the only person I knew from Prince Edward Island that didn't play in the NHL.
Yeah. Oh, jeez, I had no clue about that.
And just to go full circle,
Sure, yeah,
Superbad was filmed in El Segundo.
Hey.
The high school is
Oh,
El
wow.
Segundo High School. So that's full circle.
So, Jordan, now I'm just going to build you up for a second here. I've talked about you in recent years. Once you were drafted and came into the Kings system, I was always confident that you were going to make it based on what I called the power of your story. Because every time I'd look at your stats or your career, it would be like, oh, well, he didn't get drafted into the juniors, but then he winds up winning Defenseman of the Year, Rookie of the Year, at almost every level you come to. Then you go to the AHL, and it's like, well, everything we were told was you were going to split time to start the season. You might not get in every game. You wind up not only getting called up and playing more than 20 games at the NHL level in the playoffs, but you also get named to the All-Star team. Where does that unrelenting drive come from? Has that been with you everywhere you've gone?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think, a lot of players faces adversity, and for me personally, I think the biggest thing that hit me was probably not being drafted in the Q my first year. I think, I don't think I had a terrible year or anything, but, I thought I had a good year, and then, I didn't get drafted that year, and that kind of motivated me to kind of just prove everyone wrong that, I can play in the Major Junior Hockey League, and to prove everyone that I can play at that league, and then kind of keep it going from there. I think that's kind of the motivation that probably started. It was when I was 16 years old, and kind of wanted to keep proving people wrong, especially just with me being kind of undersized, being a defenseman, and if I can adapt to the league and all those things. So I think for me, that's kind of where it started.
Zach, remind me, I think you were there when we talked to Blake Lizotte about playing with a chip on his shoulder. And he said he doesn't consider it a chip on his shoulder because he likes it when people underestimate him. He likes the opportunity to prove people wrong. Is that something that you identify with?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with what Lizzo said. A lot of people have doubts. A lot of people have their opinions. So just kind of proving them wrong, and, just doing what you can on the ice, and them realizing that, you can play in the league. It's pretty cool, and, it motivates me as well. And then obviously I think it does with Lizzo too.
You were traded at the end of your junior career from Moncton to, I'm not going to butcher the name of the team in Quebec, Val-d'Or.
Val-d'Or, yeah.
I guess I won't butcher it. What's it like being traded in juniors?
I mean, it was a pretty weird process because I was actually at World Juniors at the time, and I didn't know what was going on, but they just called my GM with Moncton, called me, and they're like, Valdor really wants you, and they want to make a push. So they're wondering if, if they're gonna, if you want to go there. And I was like 100%, because one of my teammates was Jacob Peltier, and he got traded from Moncton to Val-d'Or, and obviously I was with him in World Juniors, and that's kind of how the process went, was getting the call during the World Juniors, and then obviously it's a two big difference cities. Moncton's the Maritimes, and then you go to Val-d'Or, which is north of Quebec. No one really speaks English. All of our team spoke French. There's only like 3 guys that spoke English, and so it was a pretty cool experience. And obviously, we didn't win, but it was a cool experience for me to go there and kind of learn a little bit of French as well, actually.
I tapped you in, Zach, but I'm going to cut you off. Apologies.
Tap me back out.
Yeah. You only spoke English for the first time, I think, when you were 13, if I read that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, I could only say a couple words, but yeah, 12, 13, around there. But
listening to you speak, I would never believe that it wasn't your first language. So from what I understand, you're trilingual. But what language do you dream in?
I think at the time when I was younger, I was dreaming in Japanese, but now it's English.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there like a threshold that crosses where you just put one behind and the other language sort of slips in there?
No, it doesn't really. I think right when I was trying to learn English, that was kind of like happening all the time. But now I don't really I don't really speak Japanese anymore. Like, the only time I speak is if I talk to my mom, and that's pretty much the only time, really. And then obviously I have families in Japan, so if I call them, obviously I speak Japanese with them.
Tapping you back in. Sorry about that.
When you got traded, it was the COVID year, right?
Yeah.
How difficult was it to integrate into a new group with all of that going on, plus the fact that you were working with 3 guys who really spoke English?
Yeah, I think we right when I went to Val-d'Or, we would go to different places, and we weren't really allowed to do anything at all. Go like the only time that we could really hang out was it was really cold. It's really cold up there, so we would our billet would have like a fish cabin, so we would all meet up and kind of hang out and try to participate in anything, just because for me personally, I kind of had to get to know the guys as much as I can. So for me, I was just trying to do that, and I already knew a couple of guys just from playing against each other, playing with them. So it was difficult at first, but once you kind of got to know them better, and once I felt more and more comfortable and open with them, it was an easy process.
We've got 7 days in Quebec City coming up in the fall. So are you going to be leading the charge with speaking French in a city that I'm going to guess most of us will have some issues communicating in?
No, I think if you really need help, I think you should just go to Deneau and Deneau and Dubois. But I can understand a fair bit, and I can speak a little bit as well. So obviously it did work out when I went to Val-d'Or.
So you played in Prince Edward Island, which is for those who don't know, a tiny island province. Then to Moncton, which is a little bit bigger. Then Val-d'Or, which is in the north of Canada. Then Ontario, which is Southern California, but not LA. Did playing in all those different environments in such a short period of time help you make that transition to the NHL when you were called up, sort of somewhat surprisingly?
I mean, yeah, it's been a pretty cool process. All the teams that I played, it's cool to see where I came from, especially playing in PEI, and then to Moncton, to Val-d'Or, and to Ontario, to now. I think it did help me with my process, and it's obviously it's pretty cool to see that.
Meant to slip this one in earlier when we were talking about proving yourself, but you were on the Team Canada for the World Juniors, and a lot was made, I remember, during that tournament, that you were the only skater on the roster that hadn't been drafted in the first round. Was that something that motivated? Like, were you tired of people bringing it up, or was that a point of pride for you? Were you happy to have people know that you, despite the low draft profile, whatever that's worth, that you were still there, still contributing?
Yeah, I mean, I to be honest, I had no clue until, you know, I made the team with World Juniors, but you know, it's pretty cool. Like, obviously for myself, my personal opinion, like, I know, you know, I know what I can do on the ice, and I don't need people, you know, judging and saying all these things. So obviously, like, after I made the team, it's like, oh wow, like it is pretty cool that I made the team, and I was drafted in the 4th round. But at the end of the day, I think it's just how you perform on the ice, and it doesn't really matter anymore of where you got drafted.
You were the 4th round. Mikey Anderson was in the 4th round. Matt Roy was in the 7th round. That's 3 defensemen out of 6 that are all guys with that kind of story. Do you guys ever talk about that, of how the LA Kings just seem to find guys like you later in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I think we just joke around sometimes saying that, oh, like, sleeper pick, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I think it's just, you know, I think it's a pretty cool development process. You know, I think for us, like, getting drafted later in the rounds, you want to just work your way up and try to, you know, fight for your spot and fight for your position. So for me, that was my goal. And even starting in Ontario, you know, I just wanted to do the best I can, and obviously I got the chance and an opportunity to get more ice time, and then just kind of work my way up. And obviously, you know, it's pretty cool seeing that Mikey and Royce, they established themselves in the NHL, and they're doing really well, and they're doing well.
England also, I think, or not England, excuse me, Gavrikov, a 6th round pick, if I remember correctly.
Oh, wow, yeah.
England taken in the 2nd round. Let's talk a bit about your partnership with him. We've talked to you, Zach and I have individually after practices, after games, but what about that partnership works for you? What is his game free you up to do on the ice?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he has 7 fights in 20 some games, so you know that you're
falling behind.
Yeah. I'm not going to keep up to him with that, but you know, at first I wanted to kind of, you know, see how he plays. You know, what's he good at, and what can I do to kind of help him? And you know, I think we started to do that in Australia trip, and kind of 5 or some games in, I was still trying to, you know, really figure out how we can, you know, do well together. And then for us, I think communication is really key, and obviously that's what everyone says, but for us, me and Ingy, like, you know, he's a big shutdown defenseman. So for me, I think I just have to be comfortable and, yeah, just play how I can play. And he, you know, I think we can adapt each other really well. And I think that's like the main thing is, you know, he takes care of me in the defensive zone, and you know, I try to take care of him in the defensive zone, and I think we've been doing really well. So I just want to keep that going and you know, go from there.
Was there a game where it felt like it just clicked? Because from the outside looking in, it was that game in Toronto where the both of you guys had a really nice night, and it looked like you felt extremely comfortable, Engie felt really comfortable, and from there on, it's just been smooth.
Yeah, like for me, I think I was still trying to figure out my game, and you know, obviously, once I got more comfortable and confident, you know, he could see that, and that's why I think we kind of started to work well with each other. You know, obviously you know, he's a veteran, and when he tells me stuff, like, obviously I listen, and I ask him for advice. So I think we work well with each other, even off the ice as well, and I think we got a good thing going on. So I just want to keep that going.
When it comes to figuring out your own game, you were called up at the end of that 2 years ago. You called up. I think the entire blue line was out with an injury. You stepped in and looked fine. You looked great. You played playoff games that year. Was there a moment, whether it was during that season or last season or even this one, where you could confidently look at an upcoming opponent and say, oh, yeah, I can handle this. I'm an NHL player. This is not a problem.
Yeah, you know, obviously 2 years ago, I wasn't really expecting to play any NHL games at all. But, you know, luckily I had the chance and opportunity to kind of get a taste of what it is. And, you know, I think it was, you know, 2 years ago, I kind of was like, okay, like, I can keep up in this league and I can do well. But I think this year is the year where I'm more comfortable and obviously confident. So for me, I was just like, okay, like I can play in this league and I can be, you know, productive and, you know, just, I don't know, just like being like, okay, like I can keep up, and that's how I feel right now, and that's good.
Last one from me. I have never once seen you interviewed, and I'm not fishing for this at the end of this, but I've never once seen you interviewed one-on-one where you didn't thank the person at the end of the interview for talking to you. It's the reason I bring it up is that from this side of the table, it's rare that a player appreciates the job that we do, much less goes out of their way to acknowledge it, remembers names, everything. So like, where does that come from? Is that a family thing? Did you learn that in Moncton? Like, where does that come from?
I think I learned like the respect in Japan. That's like a biggest thing. The biggest thing in Japan is, you know, being respectful to others. And, you know, it was funny because after every game, you probably saw a video from before, but after every game we look at the fans and we bow at them, and then we look at the coaches and we bow at them. And I think just like the little things that I did in Japan just kind of correlates to what I do now, is just being respectful. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think you got to be respectful. You got to be optimistic. So I think that's kind of where I kind of got it from. And, yeah.
Well, you were already a lot of fun to root for. That makes it that much easier. Jordan Spence, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.